Okay, good morning everyone. Today is September 16th, 2019. Today is a regular scheduled work session of the Board of Stark County Commissioners. Let the record reflect Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Creighton, Commissioner Regula, our President, along with our Administrator Brant Luther and our Budget Director Chris Nichols. And I guess today we have some guests from the City of Canton and we're going to discuss Crime Stoppers.
We do. Got a call from Law Director Bates month or so ago discussing a Crime Stopper program that's working well in the city, and they're talking about potentially expanding it to countywide use, so they wanted to come and share with the board, and glad to have Chief Jim Moller, law directors.
Thank you, and thanks for squeezing us into your busy schedule, commissioners and administrator and money man. He's the money man for a lot, you know. He's the money man for you, for Scott. And again, I'm accompanied by Chief Angelo, who's been a great supporter, one of our wonderful board members, Jim Molnar. We have a lot of illustrious board members, and to clarify, I am a board member, so I'm not really here as a law director today. I'm here as a board member of Stark County Crime Stoppers, and it's a 501c3 that was established. And our board members include a wonderful mix of public officials and private officials, private people. Greg Hawk, Mayor Catasaro Perry, Jim Molnar, Kelly Williams, Tammy Carter Reeves, Fred Scott, Mark Anthony, Jim Griffin. I'm not sure, I don't think John Ferraro is an actual member, but his office has been very helpful in getting us up and running as well.
When was it formed, or when did you come together?
We just formed it's been within the year.
Okay.
And what we discovered and what Brant Luther was referring to is we've been fortunate enough in the city of Canton, we have something called Tip 411. It is an anonymous tip vehicle that's on over the internet, like all these youngins, with their cell phones, that actually makes it completely anonymous. They don't know who's making those calls. We don't. They come into us, and we've been using that for how many years now, Chief? About 4 or 5 years. Now, that does not have a cash incentive. That is simply anonymous, and it has been a great, great help to us. And the company, Tip 411, helped us set that up, and we've had great success with that. So, when Greg Hawk.
Now, can you dial that on your phone? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
You can text, you can email.
Text and email.
Yeah, there's an app for that, actually, there always is. So, and because of the encryption, these people can actually rest easy. We can't find out who they are. And even if someone would subpoena, public records, and we're subject, this is the beauty of it. It is truly anonymous because some people are afraid, and justifiably so, to give tips on certain types of crime. So that was the little kernel there. And we actually looked at trying to incentivize with rewards, and it just doesn't work for a public entity. It's very unwieldy. So in other counties and other areas, they started 501c3s, and we went and studied those. I don't know, did you take any of those trips, Jim? I know Greg did. Summit County,
Oh, no.
Cleveland, Cincinnati, and they're all 501c3s that assist government and law enforcement in two things: getting anonymous tips, truly anonymous, where people can feel safe, and then an incentive with some cash rewards. So that is what we just got up and running, formed the 501c3. We have done a little bit of fundraising within the law enforcement community because they have dollars like FOJ and other things that are supposed to be for community crime involvement. So we've been doing that, and we're about ready to launch. We have decided as a board to go with the Tip 411 model because, again, we've had such great success with it, and it's much more reasonable. You guys might have heard in the old days they did call centers, and some still do. There are call centers that you can contract. They're very expensive to have these live call centers, and so that we pretty quickly determined was just cost prohibitive for us. But we definitely wanted to involve all of Stark County, so we've had outreach, and we've done some Tip 411 webinars, live webinars, which have been really fun, I thought, and well attended by law enforcement. The sheriff wanted to be here today. Unfortunately, he had training and he could not be here, but he wants to be involved as we move forward. He's very enthusiastic and has been a great supporter, as has Massillon PD and, of course, Canton PD, Jackson, and others have been really interested. So that is my spiel, but we are still looking for some funding. And so I'll explain the charges and how this works and where we're at. We have raised money. We've got about $12,000, I think, that we have raised. And of course, part of that has to be kept back for rewards. But to get TIP 411 up, running, Jim's helping to design the web page, but to get everything done, it will be $12,000, which will cover a 2-year period of county-wide availability for TIP 411 Crime Stoppers. So what we're still looking for, the board wants to see if we can pay $6,000 out of the board funds, retaining $6,000 for rewards. And we're looking for seed money and or support for an additional $6,000 for this first 2 years. The hope is, and I think it's very realistic, once we're up and we're running, it'll become a self-sustaining 501c3. It's difficult right now because trying to go to the foundations, we're not, we don't have our contract with TIP 411 yet. Another funding source that I've been asked to explore, and it is legal and some of the other counties do it, is a very small surcharge on court cases to fund something like a Crime Stopper. So that's also, a possibility in the future. So it's been a lot of fun actually learning about all this. I know the chief and I, we sat there and they show us in live time all of the possibilities, and I know you understand it all, Jim, but it's really user friendly. It comes in to any entity that wants to be on board can come on board. It's $600 for 2 years, so $300 a year for a law enforcement entity to join the Crime Stoppers, and that gives you your own drop-down line. So you go to the Crime Stoppers website, say, I want to make a tip, and I know where it should go, Jackson PD. They'll have a drop-down box. Click, here's my tip. Okay? If you don't know, and we've talked about this, because the sheriff's been, again, great help, he's like, I know I'm going to get a lot that people just don't know where they go. He said, and I will handle that. And we will handle that and make sure they get to where they need to be. So the way we do it, you can have as many or as few people access the tips within law enforcement as you want. So you assign it to your DB and whoever. And so each law enforcement can funnel those tips as they see fit. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Smaller departments might have a little different setup than a large department like what we have. So anyway, that's sort of in a nutshell what we've been up to. We are established, we have raised some money. Our next step is to actually launch, make a contract with TIP 411 and get our website up and running so people can start using the tips. We found, and it's very interesting, we found great success just with the anonymity piece. And so we think once we add the cash incentive, it's really going to take off. And we were surprised as we studied, the cash incentive does not have to be large. It's interesting what can motivate people. And most of the other places said the cash incentives are not huge at all. And that spurs additional tips. But Chief, do you want to add anything?
I myself and the sheriff both felt it was important enough that we both made a $2,000 donation out of our trust funds. I know Prosecutor Ferraro, he also made a large donation out of his trust fund. So we really think, OSP, yes. We really think that that is important. It'll be a great tool for us. We already in our TIP 411 receive tips for other jurisdictions, and we just forward those out to them. So we know that it works for the whole county because it's not just canned things that we're getting. But we do think, we tried several years ago, myself and Captain Davis, to start a Crime Stoppers, but it was so involved. It was more than what a police department could do on their own. You needed a board, and you needed people who have time to go out and do all of the asking for donations and to get everything ready. So we were very happy when Chris came to us and said that, they were going to move forward with us. I think it would be great. I think it's money well spent, anything that anybody's willing to donate. And I think our return will be will really be great,
So your request to us today is money.
pretty much.
Let's just cut to the quick. Okay, and so my other question is, I assume that's what you were asking for, is what happens after the 2 years? Did I not hear?
Well, after the 2 years, then it would be another $600 for each. The $6,000 or the $12,000 is the startup cost to build the website, to get everything up and running, and then that, and you know, we paid that when we started. It wasn't.
Well, there will
Yeah.
still be a cost. There will still be, like, we pay about, I think it's,
We pay $400.
no, but I mean, what do we pay every year for tip 401?
400.
400, okay. So there will be reoccurring
Yeah, there'll
costs.
be those.
And what we want to build up, so what we're hoping is that everything will be self-sustaining after that. So that the 501c3 will continue to, have fundraisers and also maybe think about a funding element through the courts if it's necessary.
But there won't be that $12,000 startup fee in
No.
2 years. It'll just be the renewal that we pay now. Like I said, when we started ours, I think it cost us $4,000 at that time because it was a smaller piece. We paid the $4,400 a year.
And just I just want to make sure I'm clear. The 12,000 then would encompass the whole county.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, and that's what it's based on. It's based on the population of the county. And that's when the sheriff, became involved because he definitely wanted to see it county-wide. It's available to everyone. Yes.
Yeah, if we're going to do it, it doesn't make sense because we would, even if we had tried to do it for the city, we knew then that we would get tips for the entire county on Crime Stoppers. So, like I say, it was just too cumbersome for us to undertake on our own at that time.
So this really feels an administrative role that law enforcement would be forced to fill, if not for the board to handle
Yes,
the
and to be
arrangement.
honest, Grant, one of the biggest concerns, because we talked about this way back then, is, and it's impossible for us to keep things anonymous without, we are a public entity. And even when someone calls in, and you think about this, to 911, their number comes up and their voice is recorded. If they're giving information on a known subject to them, they're endangering themselves. Same thing, if we had a tip system and we were paying out public funds, through that and not through this, then there has to be a record. The auditor isn't going to give me cash to go. And just so you can know how we would operate, it's really a cool system. Tip 411, when you call in, of course, you're totally anonymous, but you get assigned a tip number, a randomly, assigned tip number. They have that tip number. We can still communicate with you through the tip 401 system. We don't know who you are, but we can communicate with you. If you earn the reward, we say, okay, you take your number to Huntington Bank or whichever bank we are working with.
Right, and we have reached out to banks.
They present the number and they're given cash at the window. They don't have to present anything but their number. So no one knows who they are, which we could never do. See, that is impossible to do as a police department. That's why these types of entities have been so successful, because they can really promise people you will be safe. Your identity is not going to be able to be discovered by the defendant, through a public record request or through criminal discovery, because we don't know who they are.
That's why people don't want to come forward.
Well, and as you know, unfortunately, in certain types of crime, there is retaliation. We've seen it, and it's very scary.
So does something like this qualify under the criminal justice sales tax?
It certainly seemed to at first blush. I would have to do a deep dive on that.
I mean, when you're talking the entire county, these are the kinds of things that we need to be part of. Okay.
How would this work, like, through the prosecutor's office in Canton Township, we have crime watch groups.
Yes.
Is this just become a tool to work with those crime watch groups, or how would Crime Watch and Crime Stoppers work together to benefit each other or overlap?
It's very much a community effort. What's interesting is the times I've gone out to neighborhood associations and Crime Watch, they're interested in some place where they can provide information. What a lot of people have told me is we know our neighborhood almost better than anybody. We just want some place to be able to provide some information and let them take it from there. Most people don't seem to be interested in a reward when it comes to the tip 411. They just want a safe neighborhood, and that's what I've heard. I've spoken at Mayfield nursing homes and neighborhood associations, and they all have the same thing. They just want an outlet to be able to provide information, and then let the professionals really take it from there.
And we would work, of course, we're already reaching out to neighborhood groups, but Crime Watch, I think, is a perfect fit. And as you know, John Ferraro has been Pastor Moss he comes to all of our board meetings. He's such a kind man, and he's very concerned about people being safe and being able to give information, and even to go back to some of our cold cases and some of our murders that haven't been solved. He's thinking of along those lines. So we absolutely would have to do outreach to all the Crime Watch, which we can do through Ferraro's office, because they, are the hub of that. Neighborhood associations anywhere, throughout the county. We want to spread the word once we're up and running, so that they have that tool in the toolbox.
How do you decide how much the reward is?
The board will be voting on a matrix.
Okay.
And I think what we're going to probably do to start out with is it's going to be a fairly standard reward. F3s and 4s are this much, F2s are this much, F1s are this much. But what we have the ability to do on our website, which I really love, is to what they call push a particular crime. Let's say we have a cold case, or we have a particularly heinous crime. We can actually put that on the website and say, for tips, we're going to give above the matrix, we're going to give X for anything leading to the rest of this particular, person. So we can push those, and we would take that. We've talked to all the Chiefs Association and everything. We take that from the Chiefs. The Chiefs will tell us what crimes are a problem, what we need to push. And they may not be the most serious crimes, but maybe there's somebody breaking into cars all over a community, and we've got to put a stop to it. That might be a higher crime, a higher reward, even though individually they're lower. So we would take the board would take their cue from law enforcement, for sure, and let them tell us what are we having problems with, what's out there, what do we need.
Pastor Moss, working with Community Initiative to Reduce Violence, SERV, he provides these kind of flyers all over the place. And this would be something that we could provide a revolving area of the website that would show this information and other information that's pertinent to certain issues or crimes that have come up in the community. And again, we would have a donation button on there. We think communication is vital for this. And I think that the community looks at it that way too, that give and take is so important here. And having the ability to be able to go out and speak of something like this that encompasses the entire county, I think is helpful too.
Do you have any specific cases that might have been broken because of...
Well, we recently had, to give you an example of how tip 411 works, we had a homicide this year, and we received a tip over tip 411, and the person said they had information for us. They wanted to talk to us, but they wanted to remain anonymous. So we replied to them. We set up a time for them to call, gave them a number to call. They called in. We talked to them over the phone, but then we just went back to clarify things, and we used that, and the information did pan out. We were able to use that. So it does work, and that was just within the last couple of months. But we receive, our big thing with tip 411 is drug activity. And we respond to every one of those tips that comes in, either with an investigation or a knock and talk. And they usually are fruitful. Another sign of how anonymity works is the city has that C-click fix, where you can report properties and cars, abandoned cars. We get flooded with things on there. So the anonymity is the big thing. People just don't want, unfortunately, we'd like for them to get involved, but we understand that may not happen. So, but it does work.
Like Jim said, the thing is so nice is the text message is the new communication for the younger folks. And a lot of them are the ones that have the information we're looking for. And if they can shoot a text and know it cannot be traced and it can't be, put back on their doorstep, it is a good thing.
So you can provide a tip through the internet or
So you're at the point right now where you're needing 6,000 before you pull the trigger.
Yes,
No puns intended.
that is where we are. And the reason we thought about you, of course, is because of the countywide crime fighting that this, we feel, would do. But I know you'll have to look at it and research it and make some decisions. But that's where we're at. And Jim's already working with our contact, Tony Stano. And what I would offer, if you're interested, if you want to see more, Tony, our contact in Minnesota, he did live webinars for our board members and also for our Chiefs Association and the sheriff. So if you want to see that, we'd be more than glad to organize one of those for you. They're about 40 minutes long, half hour long, and he takes you through it. Is amazing. You know, we have a great thing down at our training center. They have a little speaker. Tony's coming out of the speaker, and we have it on the smart board, and you can see. But it's great, and we can there are so many options that we can use on it. So
Is there a specific city or county in Ohio that's kind of set up as to what you want to pattern yourself after? Like I have Cleveland on, or Cuyahoga County on the...
Cuyahoga County uses the call center.
They use call
They're
center.
not using it. We can get you a list of the tip
I
411.
think it might be helpful for everybody
Yeah.
to see
Yeah, definitely.
what you're exactly talking about, right?
I can't remember what city he showed us that was using it, because he used it as
I
demo.
think it's I have to go
We'll
back.
get to-
Is there another countywide collaborative that's set up like what you're wanting to set up, or is it?
They have
Some.
several, yeah.
Summit
Summit?
is, but I think most of them, a lot of them got just into the city. Yeah, Cuyahoga County's.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mistake to just do a city. You know, after looking at it, I think it's a mistake. Okay.
But we'll get you that list. I'll get it to you.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for your time and nice
Thank
to
you.
see you all.
Thank you, good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be seen.